When I began my research study on the effect of whey protein concentrate in mice, that's the animal we were using for, I did not expect to stumble on the role of glutathione. What we did, in fact, we observed accidentally that mice eating this type of protein were able to mount a stronger immune response when challenged with bacteria, antigen, or cancer. But then later on we observed that these animals, in fact, were able to synthesize glutathione more effectively than the control animal. And then, of course, we had to find out what was the role of glutathione, and that we took advantage of the enormous and abundant data from the medical literature on the function of glutathione.
Now, with all this research being done in glutathione, all these thousands of articles that are coming out, people still ask the question, why can't I just eat glutathione? In fact, you can't eat glutathione. What happens when you eat glutathione? It gets broken down in your digestive tract, and it ends up being passed. The only way to raise glutathione in your body is to eat the building blocks for your body to manufacture glutathione. We call these building blocks precursors. All that Immunocal does is supply your body with the precursors to make glutathione. A person can, in the comfort of his own home, take a package of this product, mix it up, and ingest it. And once you eat the Immunocal, it enters your digestive tract. It's safely passed into your intestine. It's very easily absorbed. Once it's absorbed, it gets picked up in your bloodstream. And it is the building blocks of precursors that are traveling through your bloodstream. When these precursors get to your cells, there are certain amino acids that are released into the cell, and the cell itself starts to manufacture glutathione.
I have one case of a 48-year-old female with renal cell carcinoma. And it was at the point in her life, basically, that the oncologist had said, you know, there's something we can do for you, but really not very much, and the percentages of survival are pretty thin. And they'd given her several choices. And so I came in contact with this patient, and we put her on Immunocal aggressively, on Immunocal 2 packs 4 times a day. And we also did what we thought was important for her lifestyle changes. And I can say that from that time that we started, we began to see her energy return and her general feeling of well-being almost immediately improve. And then following that, over a period of years now, it's been several years, we have had CAT scan evidence of the primary metastatic sites to actually resolve with no other chemotherapy or irradiation, just on Immunocal and lifestyle, to resolve where now we have, and by the way, the metastasis went to the liver and the lungs and up the lymph nodes in the neck. And we've seen those diminish where all of the pulmonary nodules secondary to this metastasis in the lungs are gone. The major tumors in the liver are gone except one, and that's been shrinking. And all the adenopathy is resolved in the neck and the lymph nodes in the neck. So we've been excited about that, and of course she's been really excited about it, because from a person who had been given 7 weeks to 6 months to live, that's been several years ago now, she's still going strong and enjoying life. So those are the kind of things that we've seen with Immunocal.
You know, after 20 years of being very concerned in the wellness industry, concerned about what the individual could do for their own self-protection. In fact, even after going through medical school and being involved in medical practice, I had never had this particular idea go through my mind of the individual cell protecting itself. See, each particular cell in the body is trying to protect itself for its own health. The cell on the face is protecting itself against an ultraviolet ray when you're sunbathing. A cell in the gut is protecting itself from a carcinogen that gets into the diet. Every cell in the body is protecting itself on a daily basis. And in order to do that, this cell has its own defensive mechanism. And that's where glutathione is so important. It's the cell's principal defensive molecule in its own defense. And what Dr. Bunas was able to do was to allow us to take an action step, to do something to enable the cell, to facilitate the cell being able to make more glutathione in its own protection. And by being able to do that, I think he has started a revolution.
A physician who's been in actual medical practice for just this side of 40 years, I've had many opportunities to observe metabolic problems manifested through the aging process of many of my patients. And Immunocal offers us a chance to reverse some of the ravages of time and actually see improvements that I have never witnessed before.
We have done research on this product over the number of years. We've subjected it to a high degree of scrutiny from other institutions, other investigators. Other companies, of course, don't subject their products to this. They have a great deal of difficulty in terms of describing the mechanism of action, and a very important part or component of research when you go and meet with these institutions is being able to describe the mechanism, having the scientific research to back up what you say, and this is one thing that Immunotech possesses.
Science has known about glutathione even since the late 1800s. And we knew a few things about it. We knew about its importance in the function of the lens of the eye. But after Dr. Bunos's work, the whole study of glutathione really exploded. Last time I checked online, there's over 80,000 articles written on glutathione. So we can say a lot about glutathione, but if we wanted to summarize the three most important things that glutathione does in your body, we would use the acronym AID, A-I-D. A stands for antioxidant, and pretty much everybody knows the importance of antioxidant. Glutathione has been referred to literally as the master antioxidant. All the other antioxidants that you may have heard of, and many that you haven't heard of, none of these can function without the presence of glutathione. Now let's move on to I for the immune system. Again, if you look at the literature, certain authors refer to glutathione literally as fuel or food for the immune system. If you start running low on glutathione, then your ability to fight off certain threats becomes quite blunted. And finally, D for detoxification. When I speak to the general public, I'll tell them that next to water, there's no more important detoxification system than glutathione.
A good example of oxidative stress that everybody understands is that if you get a piece of metal and you take the protective coating off a metal, that metal oxidizes. And pretty soon, if you leave that alone, that metal will get rusted and it'll bore a hole right through that metal. Or if you get a brand new apple and you take the peel off that apple, oxidative stress occurs, that apple will turn brown. Well, if you come back a week later, that apple will be a little bit mushier. If you come back in a month later, there may not be an apple there. And so that's all mediated by free radical damage, what we call oxidative stress.
And these are very damaging substances which can destroy cell components in a matter of microseconds. So it's very important then that these be quenched or neutralized right away, and this is the role, one of the important roles of glutathione.
To have a food product, which I think is the most important development that we've offered to people in their health, their wellness issue, probably since penicillin. So 60 years. And I don't say that lightly, because I think it's very exciting to retool or help the body do its own healing. Because that's almost always, including intensive care, what we're able to offer. We offer support systems until the body heals itself. Now we're providing it with extra building blocks.
The way it operates as a detoxifier, it links with the poison through an enzyme called conjugase. And when they are linked together, the poison becomes soluble. And if a poison is soluble, it's no longer poison. It leaves the body through the urine. For example, lead, cadmium, and all sorts of carcinogen.
We would raise glutathione levels in an emergency setting in people who are suffering from certain overdoses. And what the glutathione would do in that case is allow the person to get rid of these toxins themselves from their body. Now, I knew that this was good in acetaminophen overdose, but what most people don't understand is that glutathione is also critical for getting rid of heavy metals like mercury, like lead, like pesticides, like herbicides, like the breakdown products of cigarette smoke and automobile exhaust, and a dozen other well-recognized carcinogens in our environment.
One of the most dramatic users or changes in a user that I've observed is the change in Mildred Wade, who's a patient of mine for many years, whom I've watched as a diabetic, difficult to control, and I've watched her deteriorate to the point where a little more than a year ago she became confused. We had her on medication for Alzheimer's disease. She was mentally out in left field a good deal of the time. She had lost her personality. She had lost her enthusiasm. She was barely able to walk. She had become incontinent. She really wasn't functioning as a person anymore.